Welcome to the Star Wars Mega Review, where we don't just review the movie itself, but we also look at the things that went on behind the scenes that made the movie what it was.
I manage action and cut and faster and more intense. And then mostly I sit there looking miserable and quiet.
And Star Wars The Phantom Menace, where do we even begin talking about this? There is so much that has already been said about this movie. It's been nitpicked to death, so I'm gonna avoid doing like a Mr. Plinkett type of analysis with this, because that's already been done. I will mention a few things later on, but only stuff that I don't think anyone else has mentioned. But also, I'm gonna avoid doing that kind of analysis because I've noticed an interesting turn of events over recent years. A generational clash between the old Star Wars fans and the new Star Wars fans. Let's start with that. When Phantom Menace was released, the fanbase was overwhelmingly made up of fans of the original trilogy because there was nothing else, that's all there was.
Steve, we're here outside Vance Chinese Theater and people are revved up.
What are you gonna do if the movie really sucks?
Probably see it again.
I can't see any way that it could suck.
There's just no way the movie could suck. Don't see that.
There is no way it's going to suck.
Well, it could suck.
It could not suck.
It could suck.
How could it suck?
And it was those fans who, on the whole, rejected the prequels because they felt that it was an insult to the originals.
The hair stands up on your neck as soon as you see a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. As soon as it comes up on the screen.
The opening scroll and everyone's freaking out.
Then the movie starts.
Already I knew it's like just the language of the crawl was wrong.
And I just remember, thinking, oh my God, is it really this, is it actually this bad?
It just felt like being slapped in the face with a wet fish.
And I have to tell you, new school fans out there, a lot of you guys don't quite understand. That was a really tough time to be a Star Wars fan. Because this great, all-knowing, wise creator of the Star Wars universe, George Lucas, who we all put on such a high pedestal for such a long time, just came crashing down spectacularly right before our eyes.
When the Phantom Menace came out, that's when I noticed a real shift in fans from being like fans and they really admired George Lucas to taking it so personally that George Lucas actually wrote a movie to piss them off.
I know it sounds ridiculous, but for a lot of the old school Star Wars fans, that was kind of like learning that your religion is a lie. Or the guy that you thought was your father, not only is not your actual father, but turns out he doesn't even like you. And really, when you look at how the old school Star Wars fans reacted to the Phantom Menace and the prequels as a whole over time, it pretty much does follow the pattern of the 5 stages of grief. First there's denial.
I mean, I even remember interviews on the local news, and they're all saying, yeah, but we're going back again tomorrow. There was still a hope, and I don't think it really sunk in for everybody until they saw it that second time, because everybody saw it a second time. We all saw it again.
Then anger.
How's it feel, Jar Jar?
Jar Jar Binks.
You want to dance now?
Jar Jar Binks.
Then bargaining.
Maybe it was something different. Maybe we didn't see that. Maybe this is a Star Wars film that we need to watch again.
Then depression.
That was the first time in my life that a movie has ever properly disappointed me and gutted me to the point where I had to lie about my feelings to save face.
And finally, acceptance. And that's where I think most of the old school fans now find ourselves. I'm not angry at the prequels anymore. I'm not angry at the Phantom Menace anymore. And most of us had dealt with our feelings by the time The Force Awakens came out. And we were really ready to move on. But there was also a lot of people where The Phantom Menace was their first ever exposure to Star Wars. These are the new school fans. So they didn't have the preconception coming from the originals to compare it to that all of us older generation have. And being a younger audience, they were a lot more forgiving of some of the dumber moments, as we all did as kids.
You weren't there at the beginning. You don't know how good it was, how important. This is it for you, this jumped up firework display of a toy advert. People like you make me sick. What's wrong with you?
My friend who has a 7-year-old son, he loves Star Wars, but to him,
It's all Star Wars, you know? Episodes 1 through 6, plus the Clone Wars, plus the video games.
And I've noticed a turning of the tide online as these new school fans who were very young when they first saw the prequels have now grown up a bit and have made their presence online felt. It used to be that online, if you bag out the prequels, you're usually agreed with in the comment section, because it was mostly the old school fans. But now, bagging out the prequels will get you a considerable amount of pushback from the comment section. And I have to say that when I decided to show my nephew Star Wars for the first time, he was a little bit too young first time I tried to show him the originals, like the Emperor and all the aliens and stuff. It was a little bit much for him. But the Phantom Menace, he really enjoyed. So since then, as an old school fan, I can kind of now appreciate the prequels sort of from a different angle that I previously couldn't. I mean, if it helps to get a new generation into Star Wars, and can be sort of the entry point for them to enjoy the more adult movies later on, then perhaps it's a necessary evil. And it's been real interesting to see how both generations of fans have responded to The Force Awakens, and how The Force Awakens did manage to sort of balance the scale between the two. But that's a mega review for another day. When looking into the behind the scenes stuff for Phantom Menace, you can kind of see a lot of where the problems came up in this movie, and where a lot of the questionable decisions came from. And they can all be traced back to one root cause. They were rushing to get the movie filmed.
And after this meeting, I'll finish writing the script.
The script seemed to be in a constant state of rewrite. Certain scenes were just slapped together only a night before the filming. In fact, the only thing that they seemed to have planned ahead for was the designs.
Because you design a huge world and then you just use a small part of it. But you're not really sure in the beginning what is going to get used and what isn't going to get used, so you have to think through everything.
This to me is the biggest mystery of this movie's production. Why did they need to rush it at all? George Lucas was his own boss at that point. He wasn't in danger of losing the rights to Star Wars to someone else, and it had already been 18 years since the last movie, so what's the difference if he has to push it back another 6 months or so to plan things out properly? And I've searched around to try and find out if maybe there was some kind of deadline or something that might have caused him to need to rush, but I can't find anything. So the only thing I can think of is it must have been self-imposed. He must have just put the wheels in motion of making this movie before he had properly finished the script and planned things out. And if that's the case, then I guess it just goes to show it doesn't matter how big and fancy the machinery is around you, it still can't counter simple human error.
Stuff like creep. I was feeling so good about my ability to do that, and I screwed it up.
But even then, he said he started writing the script in November of 1994, and they started filming in June 1997. That's 2.5 years for just writing the script. So why were they still scrambling during the filming? Like I said, it's the biggest mystery of this production, and we may never know. But something we do know is why he waited 18 years before making another Star Wars movie. Lucas knew that making a movie is a massive undertaking that would basically consume his whole life for about 3 straight years. And his daughter was born during filming of Return of the Jedi, so he basically wanted to be a good dad. He wanted to raise his kids over that next 18 years.
My oldest daughter was born during Jedi. Since then, I slowed down quite a bit, and I focused more on my family. This is going to be the first time I go back and try to do a movie of this scale with this much intensity.
And he noticed from the expanded universe, in particular the Timothy Zahn novels and the Dark Horse comics, that interest in Star Wars was just as alive as it ever had been. And he felt that movie technology was now at a level that could make some of his grander ideas more possible. And in November of 2015, Ron Howard confirmed that he, Robert Zemeckis, and Steven Spielberg were all approached by Lucas to direct The Phantom Menace. But since they all found various ways to not do it, George Lucas had to climb back in the director's chair himself. George Lucas didn't actually want to direct these prequels, perhaps because he recognized that he needed the help creatively, or perhaps because, by his own admission, he's not an actor's director. I think one of the most remarkable moments caught in the behind-the-scenes footage is when they audition the 3 final kids for the role of Anakin, because you can see clearly that one kid is undeniably better than the others.
And action.
Are you an angel?
What?
An angel. They're the most beautiful creatures in the universe. They're so good and kind. They make even the most hardened spice pirates cry.
Are you an angel?
What?
An angel. I've heard the deep space pilots talk about them. They live on the moons of Iago, I think.
Easy is his name and the boy's coming straight out of Compton. It's a brother that'll smother your mother and make your sister think I love her.
But Lucas picks Jake Lloyd because he's more experienced, he's done other movies before, so he doesn't need to be coached all that much in doing the scenes, and they're able to film quicker. So the motivation for picking Jake Lloyd was not performance, but time.
You can see the difference between the two kids. Yeah. One is going to move the production along a lot faster. Yeah.
And after George Lucas leaves the room, everybody else says that they wanted the other kid.
Who'd you choose?
I like Jake. Because he seems more natural. I mean, I like his body language.
Mm-hmm. It's just not trained. And this one just hits the beats.
Yeah, I was going to say some people audition real well.
And this is a running theme with the acting in this movie. George seemed to value being able to film a scene quickly and then move on as more important than spending the time on actually getting good performances.
Natalie is fantastic.
And Ian.
It all came together. She was perfect, you know. I only had to do 2 takes.
I'm not knocking like Jake Lloyd or any of the other actors in this. They all did the very best that they could. It's the material that sucks, not them. Even the super charismatic Samuel L. Jackson is boring in this, and he's Samuel L. Jackson. Liam Neeson is boring. Ewan McGregor is boring, although Ewan does really come out and basically steals the next 2 movies, but in this one, he's boring. But the thing is, it's not the ideas that are awful, it's just how they're done.
Number 3. The plot.
I've said this before and I'll say this again. George Lucas is an ideas man, and he's an amazing one at that. He's just not particularly good at taking those ideas and turning them into a coherent story. And even in The Phantom Menace, with all the criticism of the story that people have had over the years, the ideas themselves are still solid. The way that Palpatine manufactures a crisis to exploit to make himself the new Chancellor is great, and is something that real-life dictators have done in real life. He just maybe could have done it with less boring Senate meetings. Lucas manages to take the 2 questions of why did Anakin turn to the dark side and how did he and Padme get together, and he makes them intertwined. He turns to the dark side out of fear of losing her. That's really clever. It just would have been better if Anakin was a little bit more likable and the romance was not so cringy and forced. And the way that Qui-Gon finds and decides to train Anakin is also very good. It just would have been better if it was Obi-Wan doing that rather than Qui-Gon. And yes, even Jar Jar is not inherently a bad idea. I mean, that kind of comic relief had been done before with great success though in R2-D2. However, since we don't actually understand what R2 is saying, he seems cute, while Jar Jar, who we can understand what he's saying, seems really annoying. Think about it, if R2-D2 spoke English, he would probably be super annoying.
You be more careful. R2, that way.
Excuse me, but the most safest place would be Gonga City. It's where I grew up. 'Tis a hidden city.
But if Jar Jar was like a bumbling robot who spoke only through beeps, he might even be kinda charming. The pod race, a really great idea, very Star Warsy, and is a good way to like sell toys and video games, if only we actually cared about why it was happening. And that's the thing, most of these issues with the plot can be easily fixed if Lucas would have maybe just hired a good screenwriter to adapt his script, kinda like what he did with the originals, where he just sort of came up with the basic outline and a lot of the ideas, and the screenwriters turned them into the actual stories that they were. Like with the pod race, the importance of Anakin winning is due to this really convoluted bet between Watto and Qui-Gon that they're doing to get the part that will fix the ship so they can get back to Coruscant and tell the Senate about what's happening on Naboo, which is a totally different planet to this. It's really hard to get kind of invested in that cause. And yes, Qui-Gon does also throw in Anakin's freedom into the bet, but Anakin doesn't even know that he's racing for his freedom until after the race is already won, so who cares? If they had tweaked tweaked it so that, say, instead of Anakin's mum being a slave to Watto, maybe she was a slave to Jabba the Hutt, and if Anakin doesn't win, Jabba's going to feed his mother to the Rancor. Well, now I'm invested in seeing Anakin winning. I want to see him win so that he can save his mum's life. Now the pod race is emotionally engaging. See what I mean, right? Like, the same idea of the pod race, but done in a slightly different way, makes all the difference. There's also quite a few weird sort of choices and kind of loose ends in the story. Like when Qui-Gon tells the Queen that he senses the Trade Federation is going to kill her.
Thank you, Ambassador, but my place is with my people.
They will kill you if you stay.
They wouldn't dare. They need her to sign a treaty to make this invasion of theirs legal. They can't afford to kill her.
There is something else behind all this, Your Highness. There's no logic in the Federation's move here. My feelings tell me they will destroy you.
He's very adamant that they're going to destroy her, but at no point in the movie does the Trade Federation ever actually want her dead. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's in their interests to keep her alive. So I guess he was wrong about that. I mean, they do want to kill her in the second movie. I mean, was that what he was sensing? Kind of a long-term prediction, not really useful in the moment. He does say that he's weirded out because he senses that something else is going on, which is Palpatine, but killing the Queen isn't part of Palpatine's plan. And then there's the whole thing with, like, the Queen's Keira Knightley decoy. What was the point of that? If it's to protect the real Queen from harm, then you have to pay it off by actually killing the decoy. Again, they do it in the second movie, but not in this one. And if they had done it in this one, that would at least give credibility to Qui-Gon sensing danger, but instead it's just kind of out there, there's no real purpose to it. And if the point of the decoy is that it's to protect the Queen from danger, then why do they send the Queen into the dangerous spaceport with Qui-Gon? And don't say it's the will of the Force so that she'll meet Anakin, that's just a cop-out for bad writing. And if the whole thing of the Queen having that monotone type of voice is to make it harder to differentiate between her and the decoy, that makes sense, I get that, but then why does she still speak in a monotone even when she has revealed her true identity?
I am Queen Amidala. This is my decoy, my protection, my loyal bodyguard.
And shouldn't the Jedi have been able to sense who the real Queen is? I don't know, there's so many questions, so many. But one thing is for sure, that lightsaber battle is bloody amazing. Phantom Menace also kind of has the illustrious title of being the last Lucas-made Star Wars movie to actually appear in cinemas. Because you remember, back in September of 2010, they did release the Phantom Menace in 3D converted mode, and that was going to be the first of them converting all of the movies into 3D and re-releasing a new one once a year for the next 6 years until you got all the movies in 3D. But of course that didn't happen because we ended up getting Force Awakens instead. Now, whether the whole 3D release of all the prequels and the originals and everything got scrapped because of that deal made with Disney to give us Force Awakens, or if the deal with Disney happened because George Lucas saw from the re-release of the 3D Phantom Menace that it was totally impossible for him to just milk any more money out of this, so the only way he could really make any more money out of this would be to sell it. Which is it? Yeah, I'll leave that up to you. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned for my Attack of the Clone and Revenge of the Sith mega reviews. I'll be releasing them periodically in the lead up to Rogue One, or if you're watching this after Rogue One, you can click on them right now and check them out. I am Bandit, this is Bandit Incorporated, and until next time, I will see you guys in the comments.